The colonel's voice carried across the dusty firing range like a whip crack, laced with mockery that drew the attention of every soldier within earshot. "This ain't your range, girl," he said, his chuckle full of the same doubt she had faced since enlisting. Heads turned. Some smirked. Others whispered. The young woman standing before him didn't flinch, but her hand, resting on the worn stock of her rifle, tightened just slightly. It was the only sign she gave that his words had landed. "Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening." Her name was Evelyn Hayes. She wasn't tall, nor did she carry herself with the swagger of the men around her. But there was something about her eyes, quiet, steady, unblinking, that unsettled anyone who dared look too long. Those eyes had already seen more than most soldiers would in a lifetime. What the colonel didn't know was that the rifle she carried wasn't just any weapon. Along its barrel, beneath careful layers of grime and oil, were faint etchings. Kill marks. 127 of them. The whispers began to shift. At first, laughter. Then, confusion. A private leaned in toward his friend, muttering, "She's the one from the border skirmish. The one who cleared the ridge alone." His voice faltered as if the memory itself had teeth. Evelyn ignored them all. She laid her rifle down on the table with reverence, as though she was introducing an old friend. Inside, she remembered the moments behind each mark. Nights when the air reeked of cordite, when her hands trembled from exhaustion, when pulling. The trigger meant surviving another hour. None of it had been glorious. None of it easy. Every etching carved into her weapon was a price paid, by them and by her. The colonel leaned closer, eyes narrowing as he caught sight of the tally. His smirk faded, replaced by something colder. His silence spread through the ranks faster than any order he'd ever given. Soldiers who had been chuckling now stood frozen, as if the air itself had thickened with realization. She thought back to that winter ambush, the one that nearly ended her. Snow had soaked through her boots, freezing her toes, but she'd held her ground as her squad fell around her. "You're not supposed to survive this," a medic had whispered when they found her alive. She had, barely, but survival had never felt like victory. Now, standing before the colonel, she wondered what survival meant here, in the gaze of those who had doubted her, in the smirk of the man who thought her unworthy. Was she supposed to prove herself again, endlessly, until her scars and her count were enough? Or was silence its own form of defiance? The colonel's jaw tightened. His pride wrestled with the truth his eyes could no longer deny. For a heartbeat, the crowd waited, caught in the tension between ridicule and respect. Then he straightened, his voice quieter, but carrying further than any shout. "This range belongs to her." It was not loud applause that followed, but something heavier. A stillness. A recognition. For soldiers, silence was the rarest form of respect. And in that silence, Evelyn felt the weight she carried shift. Not gone, but shared, because courage isn't always in the shot fired, but in the life lived after. Because dignity doesn't demand permission, it claims its space. And because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. The colonel turned away first, leaving her standing alone in the center of the range. The whispers of doubt had ended, but the quiet acknowledgement lingered like a banner in the air. She lifted her rifle once more, steady hands wrapping around the wood, the sunlight catching faintly on the etched tally marks. What once had been scars of survival now stood as undeniable proof of resilience. The range, for the first time, felt like hers to remember this. Never mistake silence for weakness, and never doubt the weight of a story carried in someone's hands. If this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more stories of resilience, courage, and justice. Because here, every voice matters, especially yours.